Hi, hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing? I missed you. I'm starting, starting an hour late, but we're surviving out here. 50 stream streak, Jesus Christ. Have I, why, I stream too much, I think, is my answer to that. Is my suspicion based on that? Hi, hello, hello, hello. How do you seem excitable? And I love that. Captain has a bigger one than me. That does happen. That does happen. And you know what? How would he so viciously top us if he didn't? I'm sorry. That was meant to be subtler. Bark, 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 bark. Just in case Dog Sweaters is still here. Bow, bow, bow. Ugh. I'm trying to think of anything else to say, but my brain, I'm not gonna lie, she's kind of mush. Oh! Fun little fact about today. My mirror at work for the large bus, one of the mirrors, one of the ones that stick out of the front of it, just snapped in half just because I hit a bump too hard. And I sent that picture to Captain to be like, oh, my life is so terrible, my life is so much worse than anybody else's. And Captain sends me back, I know what's wrong with it. It ain't supposed to be like that. And I had a conniption on the spot. I told a child to go fuck themselves. I didn't do that part, but I did snarl at my phone. I was like, ah, this bastard, this bastard. I'm gonna kiss him. I mean, kill him. I'm trying to get better at letting Pleasant speak. And by that I mean remembering to switch back and forth between us for the silly little bits that exist between two people. Me when I talk to myself for the bit, and God, I hope it works. God, I hope it works because it's what we have. I don't know the words, but I do know the tune. With tongue, right? I know no other way. Druid, hello! I have accidentally made myself cry because I decided to re-listen to part of the first voice note I recorded when I started doing the voice train versus a thing that Vic asked me to record. Aw, Hilton, you're so fucking sweet. You're so fucking sweet. I love listening to your voice notes. Oh. Speaking of, anyone else can send me voice notes if they want me to come. I mean, be excited and happy in a very normal and non-down bad way. Same, baby. I get you. There's literally never any rush or any pressing need. I just, I just like to appreciate you for them. I like to give you a little scratch behind the ears and go, good girl, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know if she's into it, but I keep doing it. Sure, how heavy do you want the southern drama, and do you want it normal or low octave? What a weird question. That's so odd to add, like as if I'd have a preference. Very heavy and low, thank you. As if I'd have a preference, like that's just kind of odd. You know, Druid, you get me. You get me, and I appreciate that about you. See, Druid, I was trying to think of a way to do that joke, and then you just did it by saying the things that we said. And I'm pissed. I'm actually pissed. I'm actually banning you for that one. Bye. Bye, Druid. Bye, Druid. Love you. Writer! Hello, hello. Sorry, let me fiddle with my magic box in front of all of you really quick. What the fuck? I forgot that the end of this song has a weird little talking bit. We'll just skip that. Destroy boys! Let's go. Okay, focus. Focus. Moth, I almost doxed myself. I'm actually hella low energy today, so I got a whole lot of zero to give. What do you mean you just gave so much? You gave so much wit that I killed you out of jealousy. What are you fucking talking about? Probably not going to be yapping much. That's okay. I appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you and all faculties. I want to be on call with you again. It's been a second. It's been a second since I've been on call with any of you, which has been quite sad. You think I'm me? We gotta have, like, community days. We gotta do stuffs. There was the plan to do board game days, which could be fun. I could just cast like the tabletop simulator thing, and we could just play something dumb. We play chess! Weren't we talking about playing chess? Aren't you, like, actually really good at chess? Well, I'm 98% sure a couple of voice lines could make you, Druid, and probably even Helta turn to putty. Well, there's really only one way to find out. And I'll contest it if it means you'll go through with it. I'm okay. I'm trash, so that's godlike. We can play Red Dragon Inn? Is that good, or are you making fun? We could play fucking Conquest of the fucking West, or whatever the fuck it's called. The one that takes 10 years? I really want to start a game of that. That's really funny to me. I remember we were talking to... I think you were there, Helta. I know Mecha was there. Might have also been Ryder. I don't remember. I was okay at chess back when I was like 8. That's hysterical. I was very good for an 8-year-old, and then I became, you know... I'll Amazon a clicker and we'll test it out. No, we don't need props. We don't. No. I didn't agree to props. It's a board game about being the last person left at the bar after your party got back from an adventure. I like that a lot. That sounds so fun. What the hell? Ah! Hi, Roran. It's not for you, it's for Helta? Oh, okay, then I support it 100%. Apparently she yelps. Love. Just absolutely love. Hi! I could beat adults, and then I discovered anime. Real. So real. We love Rage Against the Machine. Though occasionally I listen to it too much, you know? And then it's just like, alright. Alright, calm down. Calm down, Mr. Machine. Or Mr. Rage. Mr. Machine was my father. Top 10 anime betrayals? Yeah. Yeah. It's like 10 to 20 different adventures you can play as that each have their own little quirks and power to help you hit. Helter, that sounds so fucking fun. Is it on Tabletop Simulator? Can I pirate this? Or should I buy it? I can also buy it. And eventually I want to get a hand cam so I can just set up a board game on in front of me. Rage Against the Machine, why would we yell at Helta like that? You know. Occasionally we want to experiment with different types of, you know, things. No, Noah board games? Who's Noah, and why does he own board games? Whoa, yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah. Trying out a new kink? Let's try kink. Yeah, let's say that I was gonna say kink. That's more reasonable. Saying aloud that I want to test out new ways of dominating Helta would probably be a lot for Twitch and the internet at large, and this community, and my sanity. And Helta's poor little blushing cheeks. By which I mean her face, of course. Also, hi, sister. Hi, Twig. What a strange time for people to walk in. Okay, I'm switching to the game because we have limited time. Oh, I didn't do the thing. There we are. Oh, did it not work? Is it not? It's not. My magic box fiddling did not. No, it did. It did. It should have. It should. Why? Why aren't you there? Why have you betrayed me thus? What if I killed myself? Hold on. You guys can't even hear it. Oh, I don't even have game capture on. Oh shit. I misclicked. You guys can hear it, you just can't see it. Very strange. What if I closed it and tried to open it again? Oh, chugging. A bit of chugging. A delightful bit of chug. Yeah, her face. Yeah. God, it's quiet. Anyone think it's called sand? Box just needs a little more TLC. And I happen to have an expert in the house. There she is. Don't know why it was fighting me like that, but we out here. Also, please let me know if the game capture volume is okay, because I fucked with it a little bit, so it might be a little loud or a little quiet. Present. Oh,
Father wanted her to leave,
no,
didn't
yeah,
he?
I didn't mean you, but you know, a head-to-head contest to see who's, you know, yeah. I mean, who am I to say no to scientific inquiry?
Imagine one day you're just going about your business and then you're dead. Although I guess you don't have to imagine it like I do.
Yes. Sorry, I gotta calibrate my guy. My little face. Now I am looking at you guys. Isn't it magical?
No.
Everything is as it always was.
How did it go, lad? You've been gone a while. For good reason, I hope.
I found her again, sir, and we were able to talk some more. But I have so many questions left for her, and Father's certainly not been of any help.
Well, first of all, good work. I knew you had it in you. Secondly, you know what you have to do. Go find her, for as many chances as it takes. It's not just her you've sought. It's the answers to those questions that you have.
Yes, I will.
Hello, Father. Here's that.
Father, I thought maybe, here.
Where did you get this? You think you can butter me up with such trifles? Give me that, and then get out of here.
You're welcome, Father.
Did it just go towards Cerberus? What? Surely not. Ah, oh yeah, and then it's locked after that, because of course it is. Oh, and I can't even talk to him after that. Okay, fine. Whatever. Should I use a gem on music? I would really rather have those, so I guess not. Or a diamond, not gems. Technically, I could use gems on other stuff. I don't actually think there's anything else that like gems can buy that it would be really useful. I guess I'll just buy this just because it's kind of cheap.
Work approved. The more I know about the boons I'm offered, the better off I'll be.
You won't be better off, believe you me.
Me when I won't be better off, believe you me. I'm just gonna... Ooh, sure.
Here's the fee. Should help make my messy chambers even messier.
Yes.
That's doing there.
We love stuff. We love being rich in
Where'd
stuff.
Orpheus go?
Where did Orpheus go?
And after that, Dusa, you are to clean the rafters once again and prune the gardens thoroughly. By then it should be time to tend the kitchens and sweep the lounging area a second time.
Where we held the orgy between the slut and the band? You know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. You adventured. You tried something. It blew up in your face, but we respect that around here.
Yes, right away.
Poor Dusa.
Poor Dusa indeed. Hello.
Flattery won't get you anywhere. We can't go back to how things used to be.
I don't intend to.
Flattery never got me anywhere with you to begin with, Meg. Doesn't mean I won't keep trying. I am ever stubborn, aren't I? Meg, did you ever meet the Queen? Remember anything about her at all?
It was not my place to address her. I barely ever saw her. Then at some point, I never saw her again. And unlike you, I know better than to get involved in things that are none of my business.
Oh, I know better than to get involved. Also, she's not your ma, so shut up.
How is it that this place has this secret queen for I don't know how long, then suddenly she just vanishes and no one speaks a word of it?
Because Hades is
None of
scary.
my business, I said.
The house contractor up in lights. What's in stock?
Ooh, some fishing.
Here's what I caught lately.
I have a trout.
Fair
Whoa!
market value.
I forgot trout are worth like a fuck ton. Okay, now we can get one of these like nice ones. I guess I could wait until I can like do Erebus. I don't know what an Erebus gate is. What the fuck? +5 max life when I collect darkness is pretty fucking good. Gems give me coins. No, I think max life, a little bit of max life, because I already get healing from darkness, so I'm already seeking it out.
Let your birthright give you better sense.
Ooh, trout. Big trout fan? Oh, that's right, you're a big fish fan, and a knower of fish.
I'll just set that there.
Druid, I'm very excited. Someday we're gonna have a fish date, and I don't just mean getting in each other's business.
The shattered weapons.
But if you
of the
want to do
siege
that
of
after,
Ilium
more than game.
are now reduced to window dressing.
Bronze weapons. Made crudely, but they had the right idea.
Yippee! 30 fucking keys.
The power of night.
I'm glad you liked that one. I was worried. I was worried it didn't come off well. I tried. I'll take the coin purse.
Might help.
And
Let's go
it's
with
bow
this one.
time. Ooh, wait. Should I check out?
Coronact. Is this
Oh,
what you
I
really
like.
are?
I really like Chiron. Your cast loads into your next attack. I feel like I can't tell if this is good. You know, certain casts, like I'm not sure how that would work. Like Aphrodite's is a short range blast, and then Demeter's is like a crystal. Does it land where I shoot it? I don't know. I don't fuck with it. I don't fuck with it. I like the Chiron
The
one.
aspect of Chiron. Coronact, reveal your secrets. Alright, I'm ready.
Arrows or something there, pal?
Yeah, new arrows. They're pretty sick. Do I want a little more heat just to get another gem? I get blood from sticks, and I get... Yeah, no, I would actually like a little bit extra. Benefits package, there it is. Because that one has a thing. Oh, wait, I've already done it with 2 as well?
Blowing
Oh
up the
no, you
Higation
just
don't do
can't
me any favors
go over. Oh. Fine.
here. Wretches of the underworld, take heed.
Oh shit, Skelly wanted to talk to me. Oh well.
One thing the Mortals
The armor
have
on the
us is that
minibus
they
isn't too
quickly
bad.
become
This is
men.
true, but there's a.
This
I
is
want to
Fury
do the.
Megara. She shall accelerate the process in your case.
What?
We've put each other through a lot, haven't we, Meg?
Well, that was. The implications of that are deeply concerning. Yeah, no, probably. I just want to do the minor prophecy.
Oh, nephew, you've stood against the Bull of Minos, have you? Well, I must apologize for any inconvenience there, because he was a living testament to my revenge. Long story, boring really, rather sordid too. Stay strong.
Alrighty. Knockback arrows sounds pretty sick. Oh, if I can hit a motherfucker.
Shot.
So, I am a little brain dead, so there will not be as much yapping with today's stream, and I do apologize for that.
Time to collect.
But I am excited to kind of hang out for a second. Ooh, hammer. Hammer. You and me both? Do you want to talk about what's up with you? I just had like, I don't know. I had kind of a rough day, and I had yet another delay to finding a new job. So that got me a little bummed. Honestly, the mirror snapping off of my vehicle, Pleasant's vehicle, was not that bad. Sure.
Quite the bow.
That was kind of funny, honestly. It's just like, I don't know, that little bit of an extra commute that makes it so I can never start stream on time is brutal. Just a little brutal. Ow. Shit. I'll take a chaos boost. Oh.
Poseidon offered you his blessing, it would seem. He can be rather boastful and belligerent, exhibiting the most unattractive manners of your father and or Zeus alike.
Alright. Shade my man. I like stuff. I love stuff. Thank you, Lord Chaos. Lots of rumination, lots of emotionally draining shit. Aw, I'm sorry. I hope it at least improves something in the long run. God damn it. I was actually just talking to Undy today about, like, rumination and, like, emotional epiphanies, and, like, I have often struggled with, and I'm sure it's not aided by the fact that a lot of my emotional epiphanies reached me while I was high as fucking shit, but, I have some difficulty differentiating epiphany from depression. Because occasionally my brain will think of something and I'm like, God, that's so true. And then I'll say it out loud and I'll realize it's just mean. And I just assume mean things are true.
Poseidon sought you out already,
I hope so too.
My brother gets on with Lord Hades even worse than I. So let me put a little spark into his story.
That was another thing that sounded, like, reasonable to say in my head, and then I said it aloud and it sounded way too sad. That is interesting? Okay, well, I'm glad it was interesting. Yeah. Let's just upgrade our special all the way, huh? I think it's just because I grew up around the kind of people who are like, I'm not mean, I'm just telling it how it is type shit, you know? It's like, no, I'm not a bully, I'm just honest. It's like, okay. It's the coward's cruelty, you know? I think my boons are not stacking up in the way I wanted. Because the Chiron thing makes it trace people, and then the hammer makes it go through people. And I thought maybe it would make it hit others, but it seems to just make it try to spin around and hit the same person again, but it doesn't have enough range to do that. So it just kind of spins around uselessly. I mean, not that that means the Daedalus hammer was bad. It does still break armor, which is really quite useful.
There. Satisfied?
Well, that's better.
I'll get high and think I'm having a profound thought, and I'll write it down, and it's just like the most no shit Sherlock stuff. Yeah, I had a video I watched while I was high that, like, completely emotionally ruined me. It was a trans viewing of, like, a certain manga that's about, like, a guy waking up in a girl's body, and how a lot of the ways that it's written seems like the worst thoughts that trans women often have to face against themselves. Like, the one word that means, like, a fetish of attraction to yourself, which is, like, in itself a crazy thing to say, but it, like, I don't know, it kind of, when looked at through that lens, it seems similar enough that they're, like, interested about the author of that manga, and apparently they've had a lot of kind of sentences that are like, these seem like trans thoughts. But yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting, but heartbreaking. Mean things are true sometimes. Like, you can't let them get to you. If it hurts, it's probably not helping to keep thinking of it, but sometimes something can be both mean and helpful. I think even if that is true, I'm not capable of judging it. You know? I'm just never gonna be the type of person to be able to suss that out. I think I'm always going to lean on the side of, if it's mean, it must be true. You know? So I think it's unhelpful for me always, simply because of the way my brain works. But I don't think that's an incorrect view to have. I'm trying to see if I have any. I'm looking at my notes app to see if I have any high thoughts that are not mean and are, like, silly or seem meaningful, or are no shit Sherlock moments, because those are also really fun. I have a whole paragraph that's just monsoon afterthought swept away. It was of world-ending consequence, but it's gone now. Perfect. Oh, my whole complications exist innately in nature and can be accidental. Accidental can be the most complex. Same exact thing, but for implications. Girl, what the fuck are you talking about? Combining 2+ real complications into one fake can be very cool. Complications may also be the source of all evil. Huh? Girl, what is you talking about? Oh god, the knockback on my regular shot is also very bad for this particular thing. Because the special does not actually go that far.
My reward.
That you took care of Theseus down in Elysium of late there, Zach. Nice work. Never liked that one. Between us.
Twig, I knew you would agree with that.
Helped him out one time
That
and he
sentiment.
just dumped a rotten. I don't like that, man.
Sure.
Cheers, mate.
Sounds like when I have to reread a sententious I wrote, and it is just dyslexic nightmare. I bet you meant sentence. Here, do you guys want me to keep reading it? It is a nightmare. Turning small complications into big complications is easier than turning big complications into small complications, but being able to turn big complications into small fake implications without making people angry is very valuable to society, parentheses, question mark. Gnomes could have cool fights. That could be a separate thought, but it's in the same paragraph, so we'll never know. Is the thing at the top of the food chain the thing that kills the most of its own kind? Everything a character does is interesting, and every implication from those things makes the story bigger? Duh. That's how stories work, man. Nesting big complications inside of small complications, good. Dropping extremely small complications ain't bad. Bad things can cause good implications and complications without making the bad thing good. Okay. Complicating complication can be unimportant. Parentheses, important. What? Elephants are big and submissive, and that's the only reason they're big. Okay. Okay, girl. Rogues working for good guys is cool, but maybe overdone? Sure. A story is a pyramid that is wide at the base for every complication you intersect and interesting for where you try to end the pyramid, small and wide or long and short. Haha, funny penis joke. Okay. And then I kind of repeated myself for a bit. Knowledge nut. Forgetment. Okay. That's enough of that. Undownroll! Hello! How was your day? Come. I agree. These wisdoms are too profound for us to truly understand, especially while sober. Guys, I would never suggest we all have, or specifically me, at least me and Druid, and anyone else who partakes, have a very unsober night, because that would be a thing I'm not allowed to encourage on Twitch. And that's the end of that sentence. But, does it have to be? Think on that one. Think on that, ruminate on that one. I still have a bar of mushroom, probably portobello, that my sibling just left on my table, and I was like, I should probably get this back. And then I moved house, and it's like, I don't think he cares. I don't know that he remembers or cares. I keep forgetting to cast Festive Fog. You'll ruminate on it? We love a rumination. If people would be down, it could be silly and fun. He def does not care. It is yours now. Let's fucking go. Yeah.
Palm power.
Palm power. And I've always said that.
I'm back, ladies. We're not getting through to one another, are we? I'm sorry that it has to be this way.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. Ow! Fuck! Ow! Fuck twice. Smaller space is fine with me. Jesus. Ow, god damn it. Why am I terrible at this? I feel that my build has like a lot of potential, but is currently extremely bad. Gummy bear parties aren't against TOS. I think they are.
Glad that's over.
But moot point, because I will be continuing to call them gummy bear parties.
Well, Father.
At least the Fury systems are on better terms.
I don't think the distance one is good for this build, unfortunately. I think maybe the shawl would be good. Yeah.
That one. That'll keep me alive.
Fine.
Closer to the surface.
So happy to be here. Aw, shucks. Aw, shucks. We're happy to have you. As always. I always love as many creeps as can show up. TOS finds it gummy bearable. I didn't like how much I liked that.
Bloodless.
Hello. Hey guys. Have I done something to to deserve such scorn?
More of you, huh?
Okay, bomb person. Where are you? There you are.
Thank you.
Hermes!
Message from Olympus for you, boss. It says,
Suffer.
It sure is nice up here upon this mountain, not having to escape the underworld. Come join us soon, won't you?
Man, what a dick. I'll take a faster attack. Ugh, that was not as good as I wanted it to be. I should have taken
I'll
a lot
save
of
you from
dodge.
the magma fishes.
It's a Slavug.
I got one.
Oh,
It's a crustacean.
it's a crustacean. Ice Mommy! Okay. Dog sweaters. Can I help you?
Got you.
The heat of your surroundings must be difficult to bear, my little sprout. It's fortunate I've just the thing for that.
Excuse me. I guess Ravenous Will might be good because the fog stays around for a while. I just gotta remember to use my fucking cast. Hermes.
On to the next
I used to have a cat named Hermes. Back when Percy Jackson was all the fucking rage.
You want to go?
Ow.
Olympus, I accept this message.
I had a Dachshund named Hermes. Because that's super cute. Ooh, there it is. As much as being able to dash a bunch more times is really useful, I think it doesn't go with this build, unfortunately. Dash. I don't want her dash. I don't love his dash either. Her call is pretty good. I don't even know what Dionysus's call is. Okay, we'll do her. We'll hope we get a call. A wiener dog. I know what a dachshund is. I was wondering if you were mentioning it because it was also named Hermes. Oh, good night. Sorry, I didn't see that you were going to bed.
of Hades.
I'm just excited to talk about my dog I used to have. What was his name? Ooh, this would be quite good. I'll take it. I'll take it for sure.
Something.
Excellent. Money or double stuff? I'll take double stuff. Had a childhood dog, my mom's dog. His name was Max. He's pretty sweet, but he was pretty old by the time I, like, you know, could really consider.
Pick a favorite.
For me,
sure. I like that.
You think you've a chance in hell without my help, am I to understand? You made a big mistake there, little Hades. Just you watch.
Oh yeah, if you're worried about it doxing you, definitely don't. That's cute though.
Like this. Here comes his wrath.
Supposed to be using those.
Nearly got me.
Ooh, that was almost bad.
Very well then, little Hades. Uncle's going to let you off the hook this time. Just
What
mind
the
your manners
hell?
next we meet.
Ah! Oh shit! Oh my god, I'm an idiot. Oh my god, that's annoying. I meant to hit the call. I just totally hit the wrong button.
How bad could it be?
Come forth,
Just try and get
wretches,
some healing.
and stop this meddler.
Come and get it.
Yippee!
Did not earn this, boy.
I super did. Hey, look at that. Full heal. A full restore. I think I will go here. I will. I missed that emote. We need our own. We need our own eyebrows emote for sure.
spend it all in one place, mate.
Sure.
The power of the sea.
Extra damage to bosses? Not bad.
I see you.
I need to learn how to animate, but I'm worried I would use my powers for evil and just make so much more. Excited about. Worried about making porn. You out of your mind. Sounds like an absolute win.
Should we reconstitute again?
Sure. And for Elysium. We'll take the acorn, I think. Those bosses really give me a run for my money.
Enough of this place.
Fair. Yeah, very fair. There's so much art I want to make of Moth and of me and Pleasant. Mostly me, but I guess Pleasant can be there too. Fucking hate Elysium. If I remembered to use my cast, I would probably be a little easier.
See that Coronaut?
Yummy! Ooh, more special. Yes.
There we go.
Yes, please. don't flatter me too much, I'll come. But now I'm realizing that may have been the goal. Promise. See? See? Ooh, gems.
We have an intruder.
Now let's be reasonable, though. You latter.
You waste my time.
I can't.
Do you know what I would do if I hated Elysium? Bitch about it like one such as I? Ow!
Good enough to eat. Sharpen my senses.
Revel in its disco.
Come forth and be
Die.
swatted, deadly butterflies.
Defense had a lot of health. I didn't like that. Ooh. Well. Speak of the devil. It's good money.
Regenerating.
We're doing okay in here. I wish I had a little more health, but besides that, Is there a fishing spot? Just dinged. What the fuck just dinged? Oh, there it is.
Got a bite.
A carp.
Another carp.
Shall we go get some dinner? It's past that time. It is past that time. But we will miss you. We'll miss you terribly. God, I need so many keys. Oh, that's right, I can buy keys. I forget with what.
One and the same. Barely caught up with you here, Zag. You must have had a little help from Hermes, I suppose.
Well, I don't mean to brag. But I've been known to suck a toe or two in my time.
Let's, by all means. Give it up.
Damn, he is one out of me. This bastard.
Not yet.
You're clear of them for now.
God damn it. I wasted a Death Defiance just to lose. Here, take this, you
You
bitch.
shouldn't be doing this, Zag. You picked sides and things are not the same. A momentary stab at thoughtfulness can't fix something like that.
We've been through a lot then, and I think we'll be going through a lot more yet. Consider it a token of our kinship.
What are you doing back here, Zag? You made it out.
I did, but I had to come back. And not exactly voluntarily. I'll be visiting up there from time to time, though it looks like I'll be staying here.
Visiting from time to time. I don't understand.
It's my
Oh,
mother.
he's
She's
so
alive
cute.
and well. It's just that I can't stay with her up there for very long, so we'll have to catch up one visit at a time.
I see. Well then, that's good. That's good because it means that I won't have to track you down up top. Because between us, I can only take so much of it up there.
I know what you mean.
He's so cute. He's so cute. What a bastard. No. Grumble, grumble, grumble.
Did Daedalus himself build all of this?
Some extra dash damage has never hurt nobody. Man, I really should have taken the extra damage on fountains. I've already hit 2. And I'm gonna hit another. Ugh. This would have been 12% extra damage. Or plus 12. I don't actually remember if it was percent or static. Let's grab some money. Let's try and get some money. We're gonna make it to the top. We're at least gonna make it to Charon's final shop, and you know what? God. Fuck. get hit. Okay.
Should fetch me
Perfect. 700 is not bad. What's this full of? Darkness? I'd take darkness.
Consider this a warning.
I think you have a higher proclivity for percentiles. What do you mean? Like I understand them? Or I like them?
It seems I need to look for better help.
Or were you just excited to say proclivity for percentiles? Because, honestly, based. Valid. I guess I'll go in here, actually. Alright, Zeus.
Here's the fee.
Yes! That's what I wanted. Do I take the palm? I think I probably don't. I probably don't.
A challenger! If you seek a swift and righteous death, you fiend, you've come to the right place.
And I do!
You shall have what you came to see!
That ought to make Theseus shut it for a bit.
And here we are, missing one Death Defiance again. I was excited. Also, your luck is statistically crazy. Probably not. I also think you have a higher understanding of how they work on the fly. Maybe. I have a love of, gains. I don't know how to describe it. Can I have a Death Defiance? No? Okay, cool.
I can do this again. Check.
I have a love of, like, I'm greedy. I'm just greedy.
Almost out of here.
If you tell me I can have, if I do 1 damage per attack, and you can tell me I can have a plus 10 to my damage, or double my damage, I will take double. Because maybe later I get something that's like plus 10, and then I do plus 20. I'm greedy. No diamond for sale. Just blood. Okay, I guess I will just take the cheap ones first. Should come in useful. I'm useful. Sure. Take that.
God's grant me strength.
And we'll take that. And we will not take that. We will wait on that. And we'll go get Poseidon's Spoon.
Vermin. Hi.
Yippee! This is one of those few times where I really hope I don't get it right on the first time, because then, like, I'm almost at full health, so I'm kind of wasting the thingy, the water, the satyr muck. And I'm wrong. Okay.
Olympus, I accept
That
this
was not so
message.
bad. That could have been worse. Ooh, no, too late. Sure. I love potential, the gamble, the high points. I crave consistently. Consistency. That's fair. That's not unfortunate at all. That is wise. I'm gonna save it, just in case. I'll take Zeus. That would be the next useful. So I returned from not washing dishes, is what you meant to say. I'm sure. Okay, that was more painful than it should have been. Like, we don't have to make this about me. Yeah, that's fair. But it could be funny. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! I clicked off the game.
I accept this message.
Okay. Ooh. This does more damage to bosses, so it'll deal more damage to Poseidon. Yeah. We'll do high voltage. It's not... Or do more damage to Hades. Did I say do more damage to Poseidon? That's not what I meant. And I do love funny. We love funny. We love being silly little guys. I guess I'll go for the last non-harsh one.
What's in here?
Ow. Yippee! Some healing at the end of this would be nice. Come on, yes.
Satyr sack. In the name of Hades.
%. It was 4%. Oh my god. I would have been fucking swinging in it. I would have been fucking swimming in it.
Now for a chat with Cerberus. I'll take this one.
I think that's worth. Hi,
A
Serby.
monster's solitary weakness, Satyr Sacks, proved terribly effective once again.
It's super effective.
See you, boy.
Can't deny, it's just unfortunate we don't have that commonality. You're a strange one.
Been waiting long?
It grew distinctly colder just as you arrived. So Demeter has been in contact with you then. That witch. Tell me how much she knows.
What? I don't... Wait, this everlasting winter, it's her doing, isn't it? Why? Don't mortals die when it's cold? Sounds like a lot of extra work for you.
Then you are ignorant. Keep it that way with her, lest you risk everything you understand. The consequences would be far worse than a foul stretch of weather. But enough talk now.
You know, every time you tell me that I don't know something, I end up trying to find it out, so why not just...
You are blind even to simple truths.
Ow.
Guess again.
No problem whatsoever. Brother.
I wasted a lot of that.
Darkness.
God!
Damn it.
Darkness. Darkness.
Ow. Fuck you, bastard. God, you did it again. Fuck you.
Nephew, think you can keep this up?
Are you serious?
On my authority as Lord of Death, awaken witches and defend your king.
God, I'm not gonna fucking make it. It's gonna be so annoying.
Darkness.
Ow! Fuck you. God damn you.
It's time to make a splash.
Come on, get up.
Let's see you deal with this.
Ow.
This is for your own good.
God! I hate it here.
One last shot.
Hungry for more, I see.
It's fine. It's still doable. It's still perfectly doable.
Decided you can do this, little angels. Hold still.
Ah, fuck! God! Emery, are you sure you didn't mix up the bugs of luck with the bugs of unluck? I'm not mad. I'm just asking. I'm just curious. Hi, Emery.
It's fun watching the pool of sticks, you know? The ripples in the blood and everything, and sometimes somebody pops out of there like you. House staff and guests of honor, no one else. I sign them in and help make sure they have a pleasant stay.
Well, sign me in then. I found another weapon waiting for me in the courtyard, Achilles. Exogryph. Never entirely believed it was real.
Between us, lad, I wish it wasn't.
Mix them up with the bugs of get fucked.
To my enemies during my fighting days, I surely would have come here even sooner. but I trust you have the training to use it well.
Me when I'm bitter because an archer killed me.
The fire goddess Hestia. She hasn't needed it in a while.
I'll use it to the best of my ability, sir.
Is the hearth the fire? Is that the same?
Hey, Orpheus. You know about the time I vanquished 7 legions of bloodless
Why, that is a spectacularly vivid tale, Zagreus, and most deserving to be chronicled in song. Would that there were a poet here so willing to commit
Be mad.
such
I'm going
deeds
to watch a
verse.
movie anyway. Yeah, have a good movie time. Love you.
Would that there were, mate.
Would that there were. Me when I'm passive aggressive.
A word.
Hi, Ma.
Your kindness toward me is unnecessary, child. You know I have no expectation of such gifts from you or anyone.
I think of you always, Nyx. You raised me as your own, and I'm grateful for it.
How is she, child? Queen Persephone, I mean. Has she been well up there in her abode? What is it like?
She's doing well, I think. It's nice to visit her. Her residence is beautiful, a little home nestled amid the cold. All of these plants in bloom, it's difficult even to describe. And very bright as well.
That sounds quite pleasant for someone who values brightness, I suppose. Well then, I trust your visits are worthwhile for the both of you.
How sweet. Hey, how do I buy keys again? Ooh. 20 gems for 2 keys. Interesting. Well,
I'll take that deal. Here's the gemstones. Fair and square. This is not here. Look at what I caught, chef.
3. God damn it, of course. Fine. Here.
Good deal. Here's the fee.
Bastard. Luna wants to see Aurora. What happened to the Earth? Ooh, I haven't even heard of that one.
Let's see the last of them.
God's Pride. Raise your chance for boons to be epic, or raise your chance for a boon to be legendary or duo. I like that a lot more. Randomly alter the reward for the next chamber, or randomly alter boon and Well of Charon choices. Interesting. I think persuasion is better, but, you know, equally unreachable, I guess. So expensive.
I feel different.
We're gonna be needing to hunt a lot more darkness.
Okay.
What do we have? 30 minutes?
Should take
Let's
my
try
spare.
anyway. Hi.
Say, Skelly, don't suppose you'd care to tell me how the infamous Twin Fists of Malphon came to be right here in this very courtyard, would you?
Nope. Not any of my business, pal, which is to say I didn't see a thing. And even if I did, it isn't what I'm paid to do. Don't you have someone in your fancy house there paid to keep watch over stuff like that? Ask them.
All right, maybe I will.
Good question. Who is in charge of that? Also...
I returned.
Ooh. I kind of like the base one. By
Aspect of
range,
Varatha grows in power.
I wonder if it means like just the base stab as well.
That's the spirit.
Recover your ancient strength.
Hey, what?
Maybe? I don't know. Hard to tell. Damage, range, and speed. Huh. Well, I mean, it's pretty good. I just like the weirder ones. Punishing sweep. So you spin and then deal a bunch of damage? Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
My father. Done.
Felt all 3 points of that speed, pal.
Whoops.
Whoops. Oh, that's right.
Bet I got you pretty good.
Let's see what happens.
Aurora is a singer. She did the ah sounds in Frozen 2. It's a live performance from Mexico City from 2024. Ooh, kind of sick. Kind of free and awesome.
Good Lady Demeter, you've shown me warmth and generosity, and I am very grateful for it. Please.
An offering well suited for the season there, young Zagreus. In turn, as you are honorable and obedient, you'll have from me what the mortals have not.
And I love being honorable and obedient. And now I get a stuff. I get stuffed.
Our family, why, I think we understand something of loss now, don't we, Zagreus? Unlike the mortals on the surface. Always begging me for plenty. They'll get none. But as for you, I have a plethora to offer.
Kinda bitter. Ooh. I guess I'll take that. I don't normally fuck with it, but ding. Keys that are now entirely useless to me. Let's go.
More louds.
Yes.
Daedalus, wherever you may be right now, thank you.
Fish. So,
that's a bite. For a Mati.
Mati. Cool.
Specimen.
Fascinating.
You extend their offering to the Olympians. For a fleeting instant, it appears as though they're able to hear your prayer. Or so I have observed. How interesting that your thoughts are capable of breaking free, yet you cannot.
Yeah, real interesting. What a dick. Breakfast foods for not breakfast? Ugh, living the life. Living the dream. Yeah, I think plus 82% dash strike damage is pretty fucking good. Even if I am currently slow as fuck about it. Go over here.
Your dust.
Ooh. I didn't know I could activate those with my spear.
curse of chaos has expired.
I faintly sense the mark of Goddess Demeter upon you, Her power over plenitude is opposite to mine in some respects, but lately she has channeled it in manners more agreeable to me.
So edgy. Sure. Base 13% increase in damage. My wife!
I thought crystals were supposed to be pretty.
Not now.
Here you are.
My Lady Artemis, your favor's been invaluable to me. No finer huntress ever walked the surface of the earth or underneath.
You're being very nice to me and that makes me suspicious, understand? So, you want more of that? You keep this up.
You got it, miss.
I'm with you every step till you arrive here, Zagreus. Then I will probably ignore you like the rest. Just warning you ahead of time, alright?
I love a chase. Even if I get turned into a tree. Yeah, I'll take that.
Oh, Demeter won't mind.
She'll be fine. Demeter's dash kinda sucks. Yippee!
Die by Baratha.
Ah! I've been thrown. Somebody has thrown me. Hi, Ryder.
Delicious.
Damn. We are Dash Strike Queens up in here. Damn, what are you doing down here?
What do you say we deal some death together, Zagreus?
Ah, he's so happy now that I'm staying. He's so fucking cute. I'm upset that he got one. I wanted to have them all. Okay, you can have that one. Sorry, I wasn't trying to fight you. I'm just too powerful for my own good. I can't help it.
Not bad, Zag.
Thanks.
What is it with the generosity lately? Look, I'll just stash this with the rest. If you really don't have a better thing to do with it, then dump it off on me.
I ruined my own pun. It's okay. It's okay. I got it. It was good.
Hey, that's an idea. One of these days or nights, we'll have enough of this stuff to throw a feast to make all of Olympus jealous.
Cute.
You seemed a little winded there, no? Not even close to the surface yet, either.
Don't tease
Thanks
me.
for the vote of confidence there, Than.
You're very welcome. Now I better get back before Lord Hades catches on to this.
How does he...
Yeah, I hope he doesn't catch on. I don't know. I guess the spirits aren't all under his employ.
Charon's shop.
Hi, Charon.
If you're quite done with shopping, Zagreus, what say we cut straight to the chase from here?
Fine. Ooh, so Warfire's pretty good. But
time to hunt. Please be Meg.
I have VTube Studio open for something and I just jump scared myself? That's so funny.
I thought I'd never get some quiet time again, you know, Red Blood? That damned pact you stupidly agreed to, making me work with my sisters again. I'll get you for that.
I'm sensing a pattern that it really doesn't take much for you to have something to get me for, does it?
Good sense.
Oh, that's rich. How smart of you. You're smart. You know what? I'll get you for that, too.
Ooh, I kinda like her. That was kinda hot. That was kinda cute. To Death Defiance. Almost. How much was I at?
That's that then.
20.
Rafa shuddered just now.
Spooky Ghost Rider.
Enjoy the searing heat of Asphodel.
I will. I will enjoy it. This fucking guy.
That's enough Tartarus.
That is enough Tartarus. Tartarus.
The Bone Hydra awaits.
What do we think? Crustacean or Slavurm? Sloggerm? Slog. Probably that one, because I can't say it in irony. It likes to make me her bitch. Slavok.
Another Slavok.
That does sound like Ryder. That sounds likely. I think he accidentally killed himself.
In the name of Hades.
Got 20 in your vision, dropping bodies because you killing, staying winning? Bars. And it was bars.
Surprise.
Stupid, I'm so fucking dumb. Oh, that was upsetting.
Just getting started.
Dash attack is not a good build around when everything is fire. Whatever, let's try
are not
it.
tolerated.
What else?
There. Satisfied?
Do that. Next island.
Really good at scaring people, even though I'm literally just walking into a room. I do that frequently. I think people don't expect me to be able to sneak up on them because I'm very tall. So I just walk behind people. I'm like, I just need a favor. Like, I need a thing, and then I just start talking, and they're like, "Fuck! You bastard! Why'd you do that?" Ooh. Go talk to Artemis again. The Barge of
Time
Death.
for another voyage aboard the Barge of Death. Lady Artemis.
Ooh. Ooh, both these are quite good. We'll do this.
The dead had better hide.
Having a childhood that conditioned me to tread lightly because I was the only night owl in the house and made me able to accidentally scare at least once a week now as an adult. Yeah, that is the secret. And I should have known that this would be a shared experience between all us creeps. I mean, it's in the name. Eurydice!
Should be useful.
Bye, Spear. There's a bunch of creeps creeping around. And I've always said that.
Make yourself at home. You read my mind, hon. I go through this stuff awful fast sometimes.
And
Well,
I,
you feed
in
it to me
turn, shall go
regularly.
through your incredible cooking awful fast, given the opportunity.
What is it, hon? Oh no, don't tell me you've come all the way from Tartarus to ask me more about your good-for-nothing court musician friend.
Maybe.
Certainly not. I'm merely here for your wonderful singing, cooking, or conversational ability. Though,
Those
since you mentioned it,
did?
you seem to have a lot to say to him. Is there anything I can do?
So let me see if I understand. Orpheus blew it with me like an idiot, but now I'm supposed to be reaching out to him. Sorry, hun, but that's not happening. The two of us are finished. And you know what? I think we're finished here too, if you'll excuse me.
It would be fitting if I didn't get any food for this conversation, but you know, I get why they didn't do that. How many boons do I have? Yeah, we'll just get 2.
Wow, that's good.
Those are good ones to hit. Those are decent ones to hit. One of them is a very good one to hit.
See you again.
Wearing all bright orange and reflective stripes, but I do. That is a skill. That is a skill, and honestly, same. That is also how it happened to me. because reflective strips don't make noise. Nah,
Mess with me if
we
I
found
were
the
you.
secret. Her voice is immaculate. Ashley Barrett, I love you.
I'm empty. Heads down. Got some heft.
Got some heft? Why, thank you.
My keepsakes.
I think honestly we could build up some good Hermes stuff, but Elysium sucks to try and build it up on. But I'm gonna anyway.
Go with that one. Can't buy that.
5 short still, I'm an idiot, I can't count.
Next region.
I can't count, I'm so pissed. That spear fucking chews up.
Pleasant temperature.
That spear would eat my ass if given half an opportunity. I'm trying to get Captain's spear to eat my... you know, let's take that one from the top, actually. If I put the bunny outfit on, have I been requested to put the bunny outfit on? Oh, so I was. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, what a funny time for ads to begin.
More, huh?
Where?
You made it. Like that.
Do you like that?
See that for Russia?
Oh, there it is. That's the build, guys. There it is. It's done. It's fucking finito. Triple dash strike on this fucking shit. Yeah. That's not even including the 30% punishing fucking sweep damage thing. Hey, shield bearers, I fucking hate you.
Coin for Charon.
Sure, we'll go for Ares. Why not? Hot? Aw, you're just... I bet you say that to all the slutted out moths you meet.
It seems I must attempt to maim you here so that the king and I might finally stop you at the gates.
You see how this is just undoubtable? It seems I must attempt to maim you here, so that the king and I may finally have a chance. I don't know why, in my mind, there are a surprising amount of you. Hey, no, I'm a special and unique snowflake.
Short one business almost as much as with that axe. Why isn't Theseus short one? With the same height.
No, the king is greater. He is the greatest king of Athens. What are you? A willful son of a fickle god. I am beneath your father's notice, and you are beneath the king's. Now fight me.
I don't know that I fuck with your logic there, sir.
Don't do that.
Every shot you don't take, and every fucking one I do, apparently. Dude, fuck you. Good. Got it. I'll have you know I'll be looking for Patroclus.
Olympus, I accept this message.
Yeah. This build is not as broken as I thought it was, which is really unfortunate, because I'm kind of going all in on it. I don't know, it is quite good. It's not the absolute nuts that my mind was saying it was. Getting my Hermes buff from this one. Life is unfair.
That's mine.
You're very special and unique to me. Aw, shucks. She's blind. I'm kidding. Thank you.
My coffers are not yours for pillaging.
Coffers?
Damnable fools.
That's that.
The bestest snowflake you there ever was? Aw, shucks. Aw, shucks. Y'all are a bunch of dorks. Pretty sure Captain just called me a little bitch.
Flame wheels.
Ow, fuck. That was annoying. Oh, that's right. I was supposed to be doing these quick. I was just so obsessed with, like, I don't know, just not letting them hit me that I forgot about the Hermes fucking pendant. As opposed to the Hermes abstinent pendant, which is, you know, none of my business. You're gonna make her melt? Oh.
Respite.
Melts in your mouth, not in your hands? Eminem joke? Anyone? I need to start winding down for bed, but I don't wanna. Same. Same. It is 2 minutes. It is 2 minutes from when I should be asleep. I should have given him an ambrosia, but I forgot to. Scraw! Hello, Aphrodite.
Something has stirred within your heart, dearest. Oh, I can always tell. A certain kind of love for family? Yes, that must be it, I think. What could have transpired with you,
Wonder. I don't know what she's talking about. Ooh. Why would I go fight bosses when there are clearly fish to catch?
Think I've got one.
A clam.
I found a clam.
Alright, Theseus. Come here.
Behold, Asterius! Our hated enemy has come to be dispatched before a loving crowd once more. Cower all you wish. My blessed spear shall find you anyway. For my friend. Coming from this crowd.
Taking the acorn.
Goddess Athena, lend to me your strength.
I guess they're testing me.
And I don't even have a call.
What a loudmouth.
Damn! Guys! I can't get too excited. I just told you I have to go to bed. You'll get some good sleep too whenever you all go to sleep. Have a good rest of the stream. Aw, shucks. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming by. It's always a joyful stream with you around. I hope you have good eeps.
I'm almost out of here. Clear.
I could use some defensive boons, though I guess the Hermes thing is kind of my defensive boon, isn't it?
Gods grant me a swift satyr sack.
When do I plan on stopping? Win or lose after this run.
Right there. I win this round, fish.
Foolish fish.
Lots on offer here.
Hello.
Pleasure doing business.
Sure. That was the wrong one to pick for sure. God damn it. Whatever.
Not yet.
Try and do these quick. I have no idea how the Hermes thing works in this particular place. But I am gonna try and... Ooh! It got a rank up, at least.
Come try me.
Ooh, that hurt a lot.
You found me, Artemis.
Okay.
In the name of Hades.
Well... that's something. Absolutely brutal.
Down the chute.
I'm gonna save it. Artemis has some good defensive ones. Speaking of... Jesus.
Can't.
God, yeah, that's,
No.
I suppose, bound to happen.
It's no use.
I am a little bit shocked that that wasn't the satyr one.
Thank you, mate.
Okay.
Good enough to eat.
I could say an innuendo, but I don't want to detract from the importance of my statement. Fair. Fair. But could be funny.
Easy. No way. No satyrs. A special treat for Cerberus.
Yup.
The War God's power.
Yup. Now, I'm not gonna lie, that is a good one to end on. Though I'm sad that even though it's this room, it doesn't upgrade the lambent plume. I would have liked even 8%. I think I'm not gonna risk one of these. I think it is nowhere near worth it.
Fangberry.
Okay, let's try this. I don't have huge confidence,
Be right with you, Father.
but you know.
Father.
Varatha, I recognize its presence now. That's not just any three-pronged lance you wield. I could never stand to look at it. Once my brothers and my sisters and myself, once our foul work was done.
You mean once you'd chopped up your cruel and overbearing Titan parents, right? Shame you threw it out. It's quite useful.
Perhaps the fates decided that its wielders ought to all eventually wind up on its receiving end. Come then, let us see what the great Achilles has taught you. You brought this on yourself.
The dreadful irony of, you know. Finish this round out. Why don't we? Oh, okay, fine. suck. Ow. Okay.
Oh, this is it.
Ah! Clicked off the game. Hold on. Actually, I think we're gonna do it. Ow! Fuck. I'm trying to save it till he does the big laser thing. Okay. This is the moment. The moment of truth.
I'm empty.
God, we were so fucking close. We were so close. It's fine.
I'll get you for this, Father.
And I will. And I will. No. There we go. Alright, I'm gonna find a place to throw you assholes. I'm so mad! We were gonna end on a win! Last time we beat him twice in one fucking stream. Now, not even once. Brutal. Absolutely fucking brutal. So close. So very close. Bow, 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 no. Bow, 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 bow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you all complimenting my run. We did alright. It was fun in either case. Feet don't fail me now. Okay, I found out where we're going. One in the grounds. Feet don't fail me now. We are going to the lovely, the incredible, the one and only Vivi Axolotl. She's fucking wonderful. She's fucking hysterical. Really good streamer. Really good pal. Please, give her all your love. If you're lurking and you're not in the Discord, you can get notifications when I'm going live, and also allow me to steal your jokes so I can remain sort of funny. Copy a raid message, do a thing. I'll see you Friday, where we'll be playing more Skyrim and lamenting that Captain still doesn't have internet. That is our plans. But for now, thank you very much for being at stream. As always, W Creeps, you guys are fucking awesome. You guys genuinely make this so fun, and I look forward to it so much. Even when I'm running late, I'm like, please, please, gotta get home, gotta get home, gotta get home. But anyway, that's all. Bye. Love you. Have a great night. See you. Bow, 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 bow now.